Welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast, coming to you live from Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. We got the full CHGO White Sox crew with us. That's Vinnie Duber. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can read his work at ALLCITY.com. You could also read Jared Wyllys' work at ALLCITY.com. He's our floating beat writer covering both the Cubs and the White Sox. You can follow him at JWyllysWise instead of Eyes on X or Twitter. And that's Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. We're being produced by Sarah today. Make sure you're hitting the thumbs up button and subscribing, and to tell your family and friends about CHGO, because whether it's the Bears having the number one pick, the Bulls being 15-20, Connor Bedard, and whatever the hell the White Sox are, there's a lot to cover in Chicagoland. So we got you covered here at CHGO Sports. So make sure you're liking and subscribing. And shout out to Christian, Jordan, Luke, and Dan for hanging out with us in the chat. And we even got a live audience. Vinny's dad is watching. So we got Mr. Duber today, which is very fun.
If you hear just heckling throughout the show, that's what it is.
Feel free to heckle too. Today we're going to be talking about none other than Dylan Cease, the bobblehead on the table today. Jeff Passan had a report, a little notebook piece talking about the state of free agency, and it is likely that Dylan Cease is still to be moved. We talked about this yesterday. We thought that, or at least I put the odds of Dylan Cease staying with the Sox as, not a sure certain thing. It was basically, 1-to-1 odds, if that makes sense to people, of him staying. Now we have furthering reports that even though it seemed like talks were picking up in late November, it seems like those talks have still continued. So what do we make of the wording that Cease is likely still to be dealt? Is this just because of the slow roll of the offseason?
Well, probably a little. I think mainly the appeal is obvious, right? And I think, Josh Barfield explained that to us at the winter meetings, which was, hey, everybody's going to want Dylan Cease. I mean, this is a guy that we've talked through over and over again why other teams would be willing to perhaps pay such a price would be, hey, not only is this guy really good, really durable, but he's got 2 years of control left, and you can, have him for multiple seasons and multiple runs at a division or a World Series championship. But I do think that if you read Jeff's, what he had to say on ESPN, he kind of went through, kind of the pros and cons of both sides of it and said, hey, maybe the White Sox do hold on to him and increase that trade value going into the trade deadline. So likely doesn't mean sure thing, but I think the general idea is probably still the same as it was before the winter meetings, during the winter meetings, which is, hey, the White Sox have something that people really want in Dylan Cease. It's, do those people, those other teams, want to pay that really high price tag for him in order to get him?
And given the relative lack of activity across the league in baseball this offseason so far, not a lot has changed on that front. There's not moves that have come into play with other teams that may have changed how Dylan Cease's trade market could play out. So I think things now look very much like they did back in November. The one thing, Vinny, like you alluded to, that might play a role is if the White Sox decide to wait and see, hey, we don't quite like the offers that we're getting now. Let's wait and see how things look in July and talk to teams then again, because sometimes the offers that you get can shift a little bit when you're talking about a team that's mid-season, trying to pick up an arm for a playoff run. Things can look a lot different then. But, this is other than, these big moves that the Dodgers have made, it's been a relatively quiet offseason.
Yeah, and what I will say about kind of that whole, should they hold on to him maybe for the trade deadline thing, while the market for Dylan Cease and the teams that are interested in him now might be mostly the same as there were in November, you wait till July, that could be totally different. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And we could be looking at teams right now who have a loaded starting rotation, and then come July, one injury, two injuries, all of a sudden they need an ace and they need one badly. I mean, just look at the team that you just brought up, the Dodgers. Did anybody think that the Dodgers were going to be trading for Lance Lynn last August when you mapped out their rotation in January and February? No, I mean, but they had a lot of injuries all year long, and they had a need for starting pitching that they never really got, as you saw from what happened in their playoff series against the Diamondbacks. So just because there's, what you think is a certain number of teams right now, and you think you can accurately assess the market and who might be a suitor right now, that could be completely changed and completely blown up by the time we get to July.
And I see the outrage of Twitter sphere where the Cincinnati Reds or some of their advocates sent out what the White Sox were asking for in a Dylan Cease trade. It should be that. I mean, if you're not willing to pay the price, then you shouldn't be in the conversation. And the White Sox should have a high price because, as we have said, the White Sox could use Dylan Cease. Like, there's no reason for Dylan Cease to be off the White Sox. And so, teams like the Reds should be jumping at the fact that Dylan Cease is available and relatively inexpensive because it's their only chance to get a top-of-the-line arm unless they develop themselves in their own rotation. But they're not going to be in the Yamamoto top-of-the-league starting pitcher thing. So you have prospects that the White Sox and other teams covet. If you want to be in that NL Central, which I think Jared and I discussed before the show started, NL Central is wide open. So there's teams like the Cincinnati Reds that are on the precipice of making the playoffs last year. And if you get Dylan Cease at the top of that rotation, Milwaukee Brewers, they lost one of their starting pitchers. Cubs, doing nothing. Cardinals signing the oldest pitchers ever. I mean, Sonny Gray's good, but otherwise, Kyle Gibson's an innings eater, and Lance Lynn, we saw what he did last year. So there's an opportunity for the Cincinnati Reds to do something in this offseason. And if the White Sox keep him and say it plays out like last year where the Reds, Cubs, Brewers are all right there trying to win the NL Central, I don't think Dylan Cease's price comes down. I don't think the White Sox price for Dylan Cease comes down, even if he has the year that he had last year with the White Sox. He's still a top-of-the-rotation guy. You read all the fastball metrics. He's one of the top fastballs in the game. He had the best pitch in baseball in 2022. People love his measurables. They love exactly what his posting is. 33 starts a year. And so I don't think that number comes down. So hold your water. It's a good play by Chris Getz. If people are balking at the price, they should. Then they're not ready to deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried that the White Sox haven't made a deal yet. And plus, I mean, there's still Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, Imanaga's deadline that still needs to pass. So, I mean, there's still a ton of...
the 15th?
I think it's earlier than that.
Wow.
God, I don't know.
I want to say like the 11th or the 12th. It's next week sometime, I
Sean
think.
thought he could get away with
White
being
Sox
vague.
aren't signing them.
Sure.
I did think.
They're signing all the starting pitchers.
Oh, you want to bet? I love betting with you.
$100 right now.
What date did you say?
I thought it was like the 11th or
Jan 11th. Look at you.
We
Yeah,
go.
45-day posting window expires January 11th for Imanaga. So, I mean, there's still time for this to develop. But as you bring up the Reds, GM Nick Krall suggested to reporters after they have signed Jeimer Candelario, Frankie Montas, Nick Martinez, and even a bullpen piece in Emilio Pagan. This is according to MLB Trade Rumors. Nick Krall suggested to reporters that the club is unlikely to make any more major moves this winter, though it's possible they'll look to bolster their bench or bullpen depth before spring training. And I think Nelson was asking, when is spring training? 41 days until February 13th, which is the reported opening day of spring training, the first day that I don't want to say pitchers and catchers report because that actually isn't like official, but
it's when they're mandated to report.
Okay, all right. Well,
Position players are not mandated to report till a few days later. Most position players get there when pitchers and catchers report.
So 41 days until spring training, 85 until opening day. So there is still time for all of this to unfold. And again, teams have to meet the right price. But what we're going to try to do today, or what I try to do after this break, we're going to lay out all 29 teams and tell you which teams to seriously keep an eye out for that will acquire Cease. And I went through and put them into definitely will not acquire Cease, so we can just absolutely not think about them. And some of these teams we already don't. Teams that are likely, or I forget, could. I think it's could acquire Cease, and then teams most likely to acquire Cease. So 3 different breaking ups of actual buyers of Cease. So we'll take a break, let you know about our friends over at ComEd and Midtown Athletic Club, and then we'll jump into the discussion. So you got us, Jared?
Yeah, it's getting easier for businesses to switch to electric vehicles, and that's something we can all get behind for the health of the planet and for the well-being of all of us who share it.
What a fantastic point, Jared. The electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs as we all move with confidence toward my favorite band, Electric Tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can help guide you to make the changes that make sense.
So what should business owners do?
That's a great question, Jared. They should go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you, yes, you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today to switch to electric vehicles. They're good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
Did you say ComEd.com/clean?
Jared, I'm not quite sure why you need to ask that question. You're sitting 1 foot from me, but yes, I did. Go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
Midtown Athletic Club has 4 Chicagoland locations: Palatine in the northwest suburbs, Bannockburn in the North Shore, Willowbrook in the southwest suburbs, and Midtown Athletic Club and Hotel in the middle of Bucktown and Lincoln Park. Midtown Palatine has launched a multi-million-dollar transformation of the club, which will be complete in early 2024. Midtown is also offering no initiation fees this January at their Bannockburn, Palatine, and Willowbrook locations. There's something for everybody at these clubs. Whether you're a single person, a married person with children, there's free childcare included into your membership. People looking to make lifestyle changes or holistic wellness. Midtown is the nicest fitness club that some people have ever been, and 100% that I've ever been to, because they have super luxe locker rooms with wet and dry saunas, premium amenities too. Amazing outdoor and indoor pools and hot tubs, a collection of boutique fitness studios like Samadhi, Everybody Fights, Ride, The Field, The Theater, and The Arena that you can get more than 100 classes per week at Midtown Athletic Club. But what I know Midtown from when I was a child and to this day, they have the best tennis courts and programming in the sport. Midtown has been having indoor and outdoor tennis, pickleball, and paddleball, USTA professional all the way. What you need to do right now is go right now to midtown.com/CHGO. Find out more and tour the Midtown nearest you.
Herb, wet sauna or dry sauna, what do you prefer?
Which ones makes you sweat more than that one?
Sarah's got the answers. There you go.
How does that make any sense?
Because it's
like being cooked.
Because that's the reason why you're in there, right? To sweat in the sauna.
I think that's the point of a
Right, it's
sauna.
supposed
I've
to
never
be.
been in
Yeah.
one, but yeah.
Yeah, I've been in
That's the
one of them,
objective.
and
Yeah.
it made me sweat. And I was
Don't they like go and pour the water on the
And the
coals
rocks,
and stuff and
yeah.
go?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that the wet one or the dry one? That's got to be the wet one,
I
right?
think that's the wet one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go to Midtown Athletic and try it out.
And test out both.
We need
Yeah.
to do some more research.
I don't know. You could buy a Scandinavian outdoor sauna for just the low price of $8,399.
All right.
Midtown's much cheaper than that.
It's much
We know
cheaper.
what's going in the extra bedroom in my apartment.
All right, let's jump into teams that will not acquire Dylan Cease. Okay, so if Jeff is reporting that it's likely Dylan Cease will be traded this offseason, not waiting until the deadline in 2024, which team will actually acquire him? I was going to make a joke, but now it's already being flashed, so the joke's kind of killed, but I'm still doing it
That's
anyways.
not being flashed. That's just to you.
We could lead off 31st, the Chicago White Sox. They won't be acquiring Dylan Cease because they already have him.
30. They're 31st.
Yeah, right.
Who's 30th?
The Montreal Expos.
Oh.
Because they also won't be acquiring
But you
him.
think that it's more likely that the Expos will get him?
They have a
I
better
think so.
chance.
I think it's really – we haven't seen a team trade with themselves. The Expos – I mean, maybe you even put the national team, the Nashville team, because if the White Sox move –
Because it doesn't exist?
Yeah, right. I mean, if the White Sox moved
Would that be
and
considered a trade if they move the franchise? And
it's semantics, and I don't see it happening, so we don't have to talk about it.
don't have to worry.
29th, though, I have the Oakland A's because obviously they're not looking to be –
Because whenever you're ranking baseball teams in anything, the A's go
put the
last.
A's
Yes. Even if there's, only 29 teams, they're still last.
They're barely looking to be a baseball team at all. So
Right. That's a good way to put it. 28, I'll put the Los Angeles Angels. I don't know what they're looking to do. Obviously, they tried to make a play on Shohei Ohtani because that's really all that they had. I know Mike Trout's pretty good at baseball, but he's been banged up, and once you lose Ohtani, it doesn't really seem like there's much to live for, I
Wow.
guess. Maybe that's a little bit too dark.
Come on, they've
But
got the rally monkey, Sean.
They have the rally monkey and Mike Trout. But they have, according to Fangraphs, a farm system that is worth $39 million. The team at the top is the Cubs, around $240 million. The Angels have the worst farm system in baseball. They went out and traded for Giolito. They went out and traded for Reynaldo Lopez, and then they got rid of all those guys. They have consistently rushed their first-round draft picks up to the major leagues. So
They
none
did
of
20 of 21 picks of pitchers a couple years ago.
Yeah, you're right. They went 20 for 20 in, I think, 2021
Yeah.
of drafting pitchers. They really don't have that strong of a farm system. I don't really think they have that strong of a direction in 2024, so it doesn't seem likely that they will acquire Dylan Cease. 27th, the Colorado Rockies. Again, they're kind of like the A's.
They bad.
They're bad. They don't have that good of a farm system. They're like lower half. They're 16th according to actual value.
They could use those guys. It
Yeah,
seems like.
right.
Yeah.
They're mulling around. The Colorado Rockies play baseball, but I don't know if they're trying to win baseball games. 26th, 25th, and 24th and 23rd, very easy. They're AL Central teams, and I rank them as the Twins, Guardians, Tigers, and Royals, basically as how, like, in a reverse order of how much of a threat they are, right? The Twins seem to be pretty well operated. They aren't afraid to spend some money, but we're seeing some cutbacks. I would say you don't want to deal Dylan Cease to the Twins because that just makes the Twins a lot better, and they have shown the ability to flex some financial muscle, so maybe they'd actually be able to cease after those 2 years. The Guardians are very bad, don't spend money, but still somehow usually win about 80 games, so you don't want to give them Dylan Cease. The Tigers, a little bit better, a little bit more competent.
They can use them, too.
They could use them, but again, I don't think the White Sox want to trade it to them. And then the Royals, going to likely be fourth in the AL Central. I don't think that there's a reason for them to trade with the
so they're
Royals
fourth,
or
the
for
White Sox are
Dylan Cease.
fifth?
What?
The Royals are hop the White Sox, you said?
According to all the,
Okay.
every odds have the White Sox coming.
I'm not
last.
disagreeing with you, but I'm just
it's
making
not even my take.
I'm making sure you're doing it.
Everyone, the odds maker thinks the White Sox will be the worst in the AL Central. Not me. I'm not an odds maker.
I mean, particularly if they trade Dylan Cease.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
22, I have the Marlins. They're 26th in baseball in farm system value, so I don't really see them going out and making a big splash like that. They have a lot of younger talent that I think they're looking to have propel them up, and I think they're more of the A's and Rays. Let's operate at a low budget and try to make the most out of that. I think trading away from your prospect pool isn't really a smart business product. Same with the Milwaukee Brewers at 21-2. They have Corbin Burns. They just let Brandon Woodruff go. They have Freddie Peralta. They're kind of in a moving pattern here. I think that they'd want to keep that prospect system as strong as possible as they build towards the future. I don't really think them, especially with losing Counsell, are going to be big players on Cease. 20, the Pirates. Again, they're fourth. You mentioned the Reds earlier. The Reds, Cubs, Brewers, all competing for the NL Central. Who didn't you mention?
Pirates and the Cardinals.
The Pirates and the Cardinals. We'll get to the Cardinals in a second, but the Pirates, again, they have Paul Skeens. They have a ton of top of the draft talent, but that top of the draft talent needs to show up on the major league roster at some point and start winning games for the Pirates. They're just not a team that I think would be bolstering a playoff run because that's not where they are with their franchise. And same with the Nationals. The Pirates and Nationals have the most farm system value, and that's why they're at the top of this list, both over $200 million in farm system value. But again, they just don't have that playoff push to, I think, go after it. So any team you disagree here, 29 through 19?
No, not really. I mean, I think any team that does trade for him is a team that's either expecting to contend this year or in the very near future, because that would be a big part of the reason why you're bringing Dylan Cease in. And there are a couple of teams on this list who could contend in the near future or will be contending, but they're in-division opponents. And so, like you said, that's just not a – why would you set yourself up for that in the future? So, yeah, I don't disagree with anything here.
Now that I think about it, maybe the Pirates. You say they have a lot of value where in their minor league system, and I was just talking about the NL Central. Remember last year, the Pirates started off hot as fuck, and then it was the White Sox game where O'Neal Cruz slid terribly into home plate and hurt himself for the rest of the year, and then they blamed the White Sox and Sepi Zavala for him sliding that way. So they get O'Neal Cruz back, and they're rolling like they did early last year into the playoffs. I could see them maybe looking into to see this is the same thing with the Cincinnati Reds. They're not going to be going to get a big time player, and you're not getting Paul Skeens back as a part of that, but you can get one of those other people that the Pirates have in their prospect pool. But I would say you have them right so that they're not going to be in there. But if any team in this list that you put in together would jump out and say we might go and get Dylan Cease, it would be the Pirates for me.
I love you because you're not wrong that the Pirates started off hot. At some point, I think that they were above 500 around.
They were in first place for a long time.
20-9 after the first month of the season.
Oh yeah, 20-9, 32-27 on June 5th. That was the last time they were in first place, I think. But when you bring up that White Sox series,
That was like the second week of the season.
they were 6-3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They got out to a real hot start, and there was 9 games.
Hey, for the Pirates,
I get your point.
6-3, that's pretty hot.
No, I
That's
get your
pretty
point.
good.
So
Ben O'Neill's gone.
maybe, but they need to actually contend in 2024 because, I mean, even historically, the Pirates aren't a team that's going to go out and sign Dylan Cease. So you're just going to have him for 2 years. Would you rather have the 6 years of control for whatever player you're going to trade away, or 2 years of Dylan Cease to maybe win the NL Central and get your ass kicked by the Diamondbacks, Dodgers, or
In
the West?
In their recent history, they've been to the playoffs and were competing. The Cubs ended that pretty quickly, but they can look at that and say, hey, we weren't that far away, and every single team is looking at the Diamondbacks and what they did last year and said, they won like 84 games, and they almost won the World Series. So I'm sure teams are looking at that as a copycat league like the NFL is and saying, hey, man, we weren't that far away, and if the Diamondbacks can do it, we have a better farm system, or they would think so. We have a better farm system. We have this Paul Skeens coming up in a couple of years. Let's make a shot. And making the playoffs in Pittsburgh is a huge thing. They hate Bob Nutting out there, and that's how you engender some good feeling, like when they signed Brian Reynolds to a long-term deal, because that was their whole thing. They're like, they never keep their own prospects, and when they signed him, they're like, finally, we're in your favor, Bob Nutting.
I think they re-upped Brian Hayes, right, too. Mm-hmm. So they have been making some strides there. They haven't made the playoffs since 2015, haven't been over 500 since 2018. All right, let's go to the next grouping of teams here, and then we'll take a break. We got we'll probably go up to maybe Tampa, and then we'll take a break. At 18, I have the Houston Astros. They have the second worst farm system in all of baseball. I understand.
They've used it.
Yeah, right. The Astros are obviously competitors, and I wouldn't put it past GM Dana Brown to make an aggressive move, but I don't know what the White Sox would benefit by trading with the Houston Astros. It does seem like maybe acquiring depth would be a big part of a trading Dylan Cease. Let's fill out the depth of this farm system, and the Houston Astros, just by their value, don't have a ton of depth to deal from. So you would need to be taking from their cream of the crop. It doesn't really seem like that's a smart move for the Houston Astros. Maybe they want to get real aggressive. Maybe they think this is their final year of the window, and then maybe, hey, they trade him in 2025. But I just don't really see the Astros being true players. And along with that, the 17 Seattle Mariners, they've had a weird offseason trading your guy Jared Kelenic, and there's rumors of them like maybe possibly dealing Brian Wu or Bryce Miller, one of these young controllable arms. But that's kind of the benefit of acquiring Dylan Cease, is a young controllable arm. I know that maybe Brian Wu and Bryce Miller aren't at the point where Dylan Cease is in their career, but you'll have them for a lot longer. And when you have a GM like Jerry Dipoto saying we want to win 54% of the time, that seems like a guy that's going to try to get every single inch of controllable youth that he can have. So I don't see them dealing for Cease.
And we discussed that with them getting Robbie Ray back also, so they have a pretty stacked starting rotation. That's not where they need help. Yep. So they're good to go as far as acquiring Dylan Cease. I'm sure they wouldn't balk at it. As you said, Jerry Dipoto loves to trade. But, yeah, why would they trade Brian Wu where they get, 6 years out of him instead of 2 from Dylan Cease and might get the same output? Yeah,
you got Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, Robbie Ray. That's a pretty decent six. And
that's a great starting rotation.
That'll do.
Yeah, right. And Matt Brash is a former former starter as well, so maybe he'd get a shot.
I have nightmares of his slider, Matt Brash.
I would pay so much money for Herb Lawrence to go up against Matt Brash and try to hit him a slider.
I'm not swinging the bat.
I'm going to throw you 20. Well, no, but the whole point that then we won't make the video and it'll be boring. Way to be fun.
Why would I swing the bat versus
because
a Major League Baseball
can
player?
Herb hit Matt Brash's slider? He's going to throw you 25 sliders. You have to swing 25 times. And can you hit it? It's not can Herb stare at 25 sliders.
So can I just stand on the plate? and because that ball is going to be on the other
It's
side.
not can
I have
Herb get
short
on
arms.
base. It's just can you can you hit it?
Just make contact.
I have short arms.
The other video is
can't
only
reach
funny
it.
because you actually ran.
Do you want to step up? Do you want to step up and try to hit Matt Brash's slider?
I mean, I won't.
Okay, well, that's
Yeah,
not the question.
I know. I'll do it, but
I'd
it's
get
not
up
going to
there
happen.
and
I
try.
can't hit. Name the worst White Sox pitcher and his slider. I can't hit his slider.
Sammy Peralta.
I can't hit his.
You get lefty righty platoon.
I couldn't hit Wheaton Warrenville South left-handed slider in B team freshman year.
Well, we should set it up. 45-year-old Herb Lawrence versus the B team freshman starter for Wheaton North. Go
Go
Falcons.
find that guy.
Currently,
Where
they'll
is he?
kill me.
What's that?
Go find him. Where is that guy?
Yeah, he's 45 too.
45-year-old guy still
Yeah.
probably throws 30 miles per hour, and I'll still strike out.
All right. Let's go to we left off at the Mariners. 16, the San Diego Padres. I honestly could probably put them 18 just because of their really up in the air status.
They're going the
with
other way. They're going backwards.
Their owners. There's the recent report that they're late on a loan, right, or some.
They're financially they're in trouble.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so,
they're depending on their RSN money and didn't come from Bally's and Diamond Sports.
Part of why they're shopping Juan Soto and yeah.
But I mean, maybe if Dylan Cease doesn't cost a lot of money, so maybe that is a guy that they would end up trading for. They do have Tatis, so maybe they think to be active in there. But I would probably put those three teams just because they're actual playoff contenders in the could acquire Cease, but they're probably more likely in the not going to acquire him. We'll hit the next 15 after a quick break, but we want to let you know about our friends over at CIRCA Sportsbook. Right now is the time to download the CIRCA Sportsbook app. Go over to circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. The people that run the beautiful CIRCA Resort and Casino in Las Vegas run the app. If you have a problem, you'll be able to talk to the people that run the very illustrious CIRCA Resort and Casino. They run a very tight ship over there, so if you have a problem with their sports betting app, they'll be able to handle your issue right away. You won't have to deal with a chatbot. You'll be able to deal with the CIRCA team right away. And CIRCA is looking out for you. They want you to download other sports betting apps, compare the lines from each sportsbook, and realize that you are likely every single game that you bet on getting the best deal with CIRCA Sportsbook. They have tight money line splits. Games will strive to be a -110 split on the CIRCA Sports menu, unlike other books which may use a -115 or -120 split. And if you start winning with CIRCA, they're not going to limit you. They want to know what you're betting on. They want to know where you would take the current line, and obviously they're going to try to adjust it to make the sharpest lines possible. But download the CIRCA Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app. And if you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537. Text GMB 833-234 or visit areyourreallywinning.com. And also want to let you know about our friends over at FOCO. We have some great bobbleheads behind us, like the Southpaw one and like the TA Redline one that's over there. Get fit in the best sports gear around. They have hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. Again, they've donated some great set decorations. You can go check out their full scope of bobbleheads over at foco.com. That's FOCO.com, or click the link in the description below. If you want some Justin Fields merch, you want some Bears merch, maybe some Connor Bedard Blackhawks merch, they got you covered on Chicago sports memorabilia. And for all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO10. That's CHGO1010 for 10% off. Thank you to our friends over at FOCO.
Did we look up, did we look up on FOCO whether there is a whole series of athletes waiting for the L bobbleheads?
I don't think we did.
No?
How have we
I'm
looked
just
that
curious.
up?
Just curious.
We'd probably have to find the TA one and then see how they label it.
Now, I don't think they would be terribly interesting because the Cubs and the Bears are also on the red line.
I don't know. It was for City Connect, so I don't. It'd probably have to be a part of the City Connect thing.
Okay. How about that one? Sarah, go back to the Tim Anderson search for a second. What was that one of Tim Anderson like hitting a meteor off of his bat or something like that?
Pretty sick.
Oh, wow.
There's the Field of Dreams one that Sarah's pulling up right now.
It's the other one right back.
Yeah, but there's another one where he's hitting a flaming meteor. They also have your guy Mr. Redlegs with a crazy Viking horn.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Man, he wishes that.
I'm going to say he hasn't done that in a minute.
And there's like a volcano erupting behind him too.
It's a huge ball. He should hit it.
This is what happens when you work with Driveline.
Tim Anderson, Chicago White Sox on fire bobblehead.
I feel like he could be more on fire. I feel like the ball is.
He's
very
not on fire at all.
Yeah, I feel like we could have.
Because he's in the dry sauna, I think.
We could have gone more slugfest
Great
here.
callback.
Yeah, it was a good callback. Thanks, sir.
All right, let's move on. We left off at 15 with the San Francisco Giants. They've lost out on Yamamoto. They were active and signed Kim. I forget. Was it Kim?
Lee is his last name, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
The Korean pitcher?
Yeah.
He's a center
Corner
fielder.
outfielder.
Or no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My bad. We didn't sign him, so I don't know much about him.
But they want a pitcher, right? I mean, they've shown that they
think.
want to go get a top-of-the-line pitcher. There he is. Maybe they just wanted to spend on a top-of-the-line pitcher rather than just have one by any means necessary. But you would think, I guess that's why you have him where you have him on the list, isn't it?
Right. It's mainly because they haven't been able to seal a deal on free agency. And maybe, there's rumors of Buster Posey saying, free agents don't want to come play for San Francisco. Well, what's a way that you don't have to negotiate whether you want to play for San Francisco? You trade for him. But they really don't have that strong of a farm system. They're 18th in the majors. And I don't know. They just don't seem in that spot enough where they'd be that aggressive to go make a trade. They missed out on Judge. They missed out on Correa, and they still had a pretty quiet offseason in 2022. They missed out on Yamamoto. They missed out on Ohtani. And even though they did sign the Korean outfielder, they still have had a fairly quiet offseason. I don't think that this is going to be a big move or a team that makes a big move, but it's possible. I put them in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, and they were the team that Jeff Passan specifically mentioned as a team that he expects to spend on one of the Boris clients. So he made it a point to mention that he sees them as spenders in free agency, not necessarily a team that's looking to make trades. And I said this on the Cubs show earlier, but if you're a team like the Giants and you are, don't necessarily want to just concede the division to the Dodgers, given what LA has done this offseason, then maybe that prompts a shift in strategy. And Sean, like you said, we don't have as much luck getting guys to come here in free agency. So let's try to build our team another way. So, do they have enough to make the White Sox say yes? I don't know that that's necessarily the case, but I still think the Giants they'll be active, just maybe not in this way specifically.
Right, and the Giants don't have a ton of blue chippers, at least according to Fangraphs. They have one pitcher that has a future value over 55, which is like a for sure major league starter. So nothing really to write home about with the San Francisco farm system.
And they have 18 million outfielders that they need to trade because there's only 3 spots available.
That's true. You got DH, and hey, maybe Michael Conforto can play first base. We know Yohan Moncada can. Let's go to 14. Right, I have the Rays. It would be odd if the Rays went out and got Dylan Cease.
He's affordable.
I think.
He's affordable.
And they have the prospect ranking.
Of course, yeah.
It doesn't seem Rays-like to go out and get
someone who's already done something.
Good. Yeah.
Their thing is to have guys who do something and then get rid of them at the absolute correct time. Herb, what is it that you always say? If you're trading with the Rays, you lose.
Which Sean bristles at because there's been a couple wins, but the Jake Cronenworth thing's not looking that great anymore. So I'm thinking, you don't want to trade with the Rays. I'm sure Tyler Glass now, they're like, enjoy that, Dodgers, and pay him money also. He pitched 120 innings. So, don't mess with the Rays. I'm not messing with them.
I think that they have the prospects. They have 3 bats that have future value of 55. But I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the Rays' MO, especially it seems like they would be the team to pick them up for 2024 and then deal them by 2025.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to sign them. So what's the point?
Yes.
You're only going to have them for 2 years.
Trade him and flip him kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they have the bats. They have the players. They have maybe the will to do it, but they don't have the actual...
Sarah laughed at you when you said they have the will.
She doesn't have a mic, so she can't...
Wow.
I don't know.
Sorry, Sarah.
I don't think they have the real ability to go get Cease. Next up at 13 and 12 is the Mets and the Yankees. Mets seem like a little bit more like 2024 is a wait and see year because it's not really sure what they're going to do with Pete Alonso. Senga's been great, and they have the prospect ability to go get Dylan Cease, and they have the ability to re-sign him. So maybe if they really love Dylan Cease as a player, they go acquire Dylan Cease because they've had issues signing Yamamoto. Some of these bigger free agent pitchers, right? We've seen DeGrom walk. Maybe they think this is an avenue to go get some elite pitching. But again, they don't really seem hungry enough to move the offseason or make the move of the offseason in acquiring Cease. The Yankees seem a little bit more desperate, but they have a worse farm system. They're 24th, at least according to Fangraphs, with a 112 value. That's worse than the Seattle Mariners. That's worse than the Giants. But the one thing that the Yankees do have is our pitching potential. So maybe if the White Sox are looking for a pitching-heavy prospect return, the Yankees are that team.
Look at the bobblehead, man. He ain't going to the Yankees. That beautiful, beautiful mustache.
You can keep the mustache.
I know you can, but they want him to clean it up a little bit more.
I don't think it's very dirty.
Is it dirty?
Look at Carlos Rodon's mustache now.
Yeah.
Nestor Cortez is cleaner now.
I don't know. I think Cease has a cleaner mustache.
I think Cease would be allowed to maintain his current level of stashiness.
Would you? Like that's
no,
yours?
I think, well, it depends on what year it was.
Yours?
This is looking real good for like late 80s Steinbrenner, but yeah, I don't know.
It's like Don Mattingly.
This is a real Mattingly vibe,
Yeah.
but I don't know if this would fly in 2024.
Yeah, and then Mattingly, you have to cut your sideburns.
I have to get rid of those sideburns, man.
It's like just no hair.
It's fun. Cortez and Cease have a similar mustache.
Let's see.
Yeah, I think Dylan would be fine.
I mean, maybe Dylan has to clean up the lip a little bit more, but I mean, it's pretty straight.
thick.
I want to know how they decide how much is too much mustache. Does somebody come around and measure?
Well, like George Steinbrenner has been dead for a while,
A long time.
Like that was his rule. Like, have those rules changed?
No.
Is it still the same? No, I mean like Jared was saying, like the style. Like, are we still operating under what George Steinbrenner thought was acceptable in whatever year it was that he passed away, or has that like evolved to be like, this is what Hal Steinbrenner thinks is good in 2024? That's a good call. That would be like, that's one of the more interesting things I could read is like inside the Yankees hair and facial hair policy.
Yeah. How exactly does it work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there is it's just mustache. I mean, Goose Gossage had a very exaggerated mustache, right? Like, didn't Goose go down to
Herman Munson famously had
I don't think that there's many rules.
And what's how
Reggie
good?
Jackson had a mustache while he was on the Yankees. Yeah.
But those are great players.
Well, that was going to be my question: is how good do you have to be in order for them to relax the rules?
Yeah.
White Sox.
Like, let's say
they made Randy Johnson cut his hair when he went there. Yeah.
like,
Oscar
what if
Gamble
Ohtani had like a huge beard? Would they,
if Shohei Ohtani was Jason Worth?
Right. He has a Jason Worth style beard.
No.
They made Johnny Damon shave completely.
Oh my God!
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Captain
true.
Caveman.
That's
Yeah.
true. It's true.
Oscar Gamble, White Sox legend, was a Yankee, and he had a mustache and a little soul patch and the big hair.
Right.
And there was no appearance change
Sure,
there. So
sure.
I don't.
Interesting.
I don't
They
think
should get rid of it altogether.
Let's talk about baseball.
Or make it more ridiculous.
Like
No one's allowed to have, just everybody has to be completely bald.
even
No hair.
even eyebrows have to go.
Everybody has to have the Roger Maris crew cut. Like, yeah, very specific.
They've done studies, and you're faster without hair. So they're
Yeah.
trying to gain
More
every edge
aerodynamic,
possible.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right. After the Yankees, I got the Phillies, Blue Jays, Braves, and Reds. The Phillies don't really have the prospects, and they don't really have a need for Cease, but it's Dave Dombrowski. So, like, if they go if Dave Dombrowski makes an aggressive move, I'm not going to be shocked.
Well, they weren't they surprise suitors for Yamamoto also? Phillies, I believe.
They were,
Yeah.
Did that quickly like bail out though, and that's why they signed Nola so quickly?
No.
I
Just
don't
recently.
remember.
This
Yeah,
is
I
after
don't
they signed Nola.
I
Yeah.
don't remember that. So maybe the Phillies. I put them at 11. At 10, I have the Blue Jays. They obviously missed out on Yamamoto. They missed out on Ohtani.
Well, and look what you got here. 13, 12, 11, 10. Those are all teams that missed out on Yamamoto. And it's just like that's what I think. It's what the White Sox were waiting for, right? The White Sox were waiting for, and are still waiting because there are guys like Snell and Montgomery out there. They were waiting for these other names to come off the board. Let's see who's still standing, standing, to use a musical chairs analogy. Let's see who's still standing once the music stops on Yamamoto, once the music stops on Nola, once the music stops on Snell, who has yet to sign, obviously. And then will those teams be desperate for a chair, and can we provide it in Dylan Cease? And those four teams right there that you listed, they were all reported to be in on Yamamoto. They missed. Are they going to pivot to Snell? Is Montgomery more their speed? Are they, when those two guys sign, are some of those going to be left waiting? Obviously, at least two of them will be. And are they going to be saying, okay, now we're getting desperate, and now we are going to raise our willingness to meet that asking price.
It's interesting, especially too, because I wonder like what the determination is like with age, with the length, right? You're signing him out of as for a long-term agreement, right?
Got a dozen years,
5 years. He's got an opt-out, I think, as early as like 2030. So even if you're dealing with that, I mean, it's still longer than how long you'll have Cease for. But it's also in concert with the prospect system. Like, do you have the actual ability and want to go get them? You look at the value of their franchise or of their prospects, Phillies 152, Blue Jays 123, Braves 106, Reds 150. All the teams that are in the top 7 all have a prospect value system higher than 150. So it's teams with that prospect and also the hopes to be better. So let's look at those teams.
Well, I would just bring up the Braves too. I think you might have the Braves a little high because
At
after getting Chris Sale, are they looking for starting pitching anymore? I mean, I think they might have made their trade for starting pitching. Yeah. I mean, look, if you're the White Sox, you're asking for a lot more than just Vaughn Grissom. They certainly probably could have used him, but a lot more than just that. That's all that the Braves had to give up for Chris Sale. Is Chris Sale going to be as good as Dylan Cease? Maybe not, probably not, but that's all that they had to part with to fill out their rotation with a guy who's won a World Series before. They might just be done.
Yeah,
that front at least.
I don't hate that. I don't hate to move them down to maybe where San Francisco is a little bit, just because again they don't even have the prospects to get a guy like Cease. So that's a fair point. Maybe they are done after acquiring Sale, but also he is cheap, and it doesn't seem like the Braves want to go spend money. So their window is going to be for the next 2 years, so maybe they just sell. We'll give you all of our prospects for one player.
I mean, I'm looking at their roster resource, and it's 40-year-old Charlie Morton, often hurt Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez, ? Their starting rotation is weird.
They might be a great example of what Vinnie
oh bother
of what Vinnie said earlier about a team who looks like their rotation is set right now, but come July they may have a need then that they don't have right now. Yeah. So maybe Atlanta's a team to keep an eye on down the road.
Right. And two, I know Jared was bringing up, what are ways or reasons you don't trade Cease, or, what are the benefits to keeping Cease and having him pitch for the White Sox? Maybe even though the Braves right now are at a bad position prospect-wise, they're able to have those prospects are able to have good starts to 2024, and maybe the view of those prospects change.
Well, and one more answer to that question specifically is what Jeff brought up when he in his writing for ESPN. The White Sox asking price reportedly very high right now, right? But guess what? Maybe that looks justified after 3 months of Dylan Cease pitching like he did in 2022. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that is a possibility. Maybe the idea is that some teams are like, man, we saw what he did in 2023. He was fine, but he wasn't that guy from 2022. Maybe Dylan Cease goes out and is that guy from 2022 in the first half of next season, and all of a sudden that asking price is a lot more realistic.
I get that point, and we had the Cincinnati Reds serious threats to acquire Cease about a week ago. And a ton of Reds fans commented, like, this is stupid, Cease isn't that good, yada, yada, yada. Jerry Reinsdorf had that quote from last year. It's like, you're as good as your dumbest competitors or whatever, right? Like, if teams are looking at Dylan Cease in his 2023 and saying, oh, that pitcher, we don't want him, he's just fine. You have a bad pitching staff. You have bad talent evaluators. Like, Dylan Cease is a top 10 pitcher. If Tyler Glasnow is getting near $30 million AAV, there's no reason why Dylan Cease should not be getting $8 more million than Tyler Glasnow. Like, if you look at his actual resume, you look at his ability from what he's always shown from a professional level, going from a fifth-round pick and dominating basically every level to being so interesting for the Sox to make him a piece of that Quintana trade, riding him out from 16 to 2023. Like, he's everything that you want a prospect to be. Like, yeah, he might not have had the strongest 2023, but also he had a horrible defense behind him.
But I guess my point, just saying, again, you're not wrong, but I think the point being is that, like, if he goes out and has a 2.5 ERA by the end of June, all of a sudden someone's going to acquire the guy who might win the Cy Young versus someone's going to acquire a really good pitcher. Like, the level there, he can go even higher, I guess is what I'm saying.
The price will be higher.
But I don't even know if the price would be higher, because right now we're hearing that the price is high. So maybe it just means teams see the value in the price being high.
That's what I mean.
Right. But it's more of like, I guess teams have, Cease has to prove it, but like.
Or the price that seems high to other teams right now may not seem so high if he goes out the first few months and pitches like that. Then they'll look at him and say, okay, you know what? We didn't want to do this in January, but we'll do this now.
Right. And I guess my thought is like, he will do that because he's just got all of the intangible stuff. Like he has all of the makeup that you want in a 1 or 2 starter for a major league rotation.
I know that's not part of this show, but do you think the White Sox are not desperate is the wrong word, but they're wanting to trade Cease before the season starts just in case he has another year like 2023 and his value goes down even further?
From what they've said, no.
Okay.
From what they've said, they very much see themselves in the driver's seat here, and they don't feel any urgency. They're going to sit and wait for the price that they want.
I just don't see how he would regress. What?
I mean, he did. He did
regress in 2023, but I don't think that is like.
But it wasn't dramatic enough.
Curve,
it wasn't.
Right. I think that as we know, his slider wasn't as sharp as it was in 2022. He had one of the worst defenses in all of baseball behind him, and it didn't seem like his fastball was just as sharp as it was in 2022. And I think with, again, the improved pitching staff with Brian Bannister leading the way, I think that we're going to see just the refining that you need over an offseason. We're going to see Dylan Cease be as effective as he was. StatCast released the stat of swords. Pitching Ninja has referred to basically check swings at pitches, like half-hearted swings, as swords. And now StatCast is defining those swings and actually
please tell me
them.
That stands for something.
No, it's a reference to
when you swing weirdly
bench warmers and. Rob Schneider says to David Spade, it's not a sword, as he's just like...
It's a reference to a Rob Schneider movie?
Yep.
I feel like we could have done better than that. Yeah.
Bench warmers done better. But, as we can show, Dylan Cease was the leader in 2023 in swords. Second was Spencer Strider. And if you want to... I shared this in Slack. I'm sorry. I'm not sure if I downloaded it. Dylan Cease was the leader in swords for all of baseball, and his slider was still the second most effective pitch in getting swords in all of baseball. Strider was at 45, Cease was at 44, and then third was Zach Gallen at 29. So, like, that slider, even though it wasn't, like, the most dominant pitch in baseball as it was in 2022, it was still extremely confusing to hitters in 2023. And I don't think that we're going to see... Like, if you're asking me what Cease is going to be like in 2024, it's absolutely closer to 2022 than it is 2023. Like, I think we'll see that bounce back from an elite athlete.
Which is probably all the more reason to hold on to him until closer to the trade deadline.
Right, unless you get that high asking price this offseason. And here are the teams that I think could match that high asking price. It's okay that we don't need the graphic. Go check out Mike Petriello's piece at MLB.com to check out the sword stats. Matt Brash's slider is on there.
Ooh, this is an interesting list.
At 7, I have the St. Louis Cardinals. I know that they've been active. I know that they got Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn. Who else did they add?
My guy, Sonny Gray.
Oh, Sonny Gray, right. I do think that this is a team that has been aggressive before in the trade market. They went out and got Nolan Arenado. They went out and got Paul Goldschmidt. I don't think that, even though they had a down year in 2023, the St. Louis Cardinals organization is happy with that year. I don't think they're okay with the finish that they just had. It does seem like a team that wants to get better, and maybe they see Dylan Cease as that guy that they could acquire for a low price now and extend. They were also in on Yamamoto. Maybe that's just because of the Lars Nootbaar connection, but this could be a guy that the Cardinals, even though they're a small market team, they do make big moves at times, and I think that this could be a calculated big move if they see the value of a 27-year-old pitcher at his prime that's controllable for 2 more years and maybe is a guy that you can extend for the long term. I think that the Cardinals, even though they don't have that great of a farm system, that's why they're last out of these teams, I do think that they've shown the propensity to be aggressive before.
I don't disagree with you in terms of their desire. I think if they saw that opportunity to upgrade that rotation like that, they'd definitely take it. But when we get down to this list, when it comes time to splitting hairs on who would be most likely, look for pitching. Look for young pitching in return. I think that's what the White Sox would prefer. I think there are some very intriguing position players that the Cardinals have that would make interesting sense if they were able to, put it together with some other moves maybe and try to bring in some other pitching. But if Dylan Cease is their one shot at rolling the dice to try to get something that really helps them in the long term from a pitching standpoint, that's, I think, what you should look for.
Yeah, and the Cardinals, too, I maybe pitching would be the thing that the White Sox try to locate and find as the top piece, but I wouldn't be surprised, too. Again, position players play more games. Maybe that is what they end up looking for just because, a pitcher's going to make 33 starts if you're lucky, and a position player is going to make anywhere from 140 to 155 starts. Like, maybe there is more value in those bats, and a guy like Mason Wynn would be intriguing enough for the Sox to make him a focal point. Sixth, I have the Texas Rangers. They're a team that's obviously been aggressive before, making big signings, spending a ton of money. They have the farm system to do it, fifth according to Fangraphs. There's also the RSN number that we might get to if there's enough time. I don't think so. But maybe they miss out on Jordan Montgomery. Maybe they miss out on Blake Snell. It does seem like they are likely going to be aggressive in those markets for those players. Maybe they miss out on them, and I do think that if Texas still wants to be aggressive, still wants to be, cream of the crop, defend their title, they could be after Dylan Cease because of their prospect, and they'd be able to be like, oh, hey, we're not spending $100 million on Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery. All we have to do is give up that prospect. What's it called? That pay the
Capital.
Prospect. Yeah.
And you look at what they did pitching wise in the past that didn't really work out for them, and yet they won in spite of that. So I could see them looking at a trade for Dylan Cease as a way of bolstering a rotation that looks like it needs it. Yes, we were able to be successful in spite of what happened with DeGrom. But, yeah, I don't know, they've been so much more spenders in the past, where this is another thing where it's kind of a shift from what their approach has been in recent history. So do they make a trade like this and mortgage some of their future players? I think it's definitely possible, but there's some other teams up higher on this list that I think make a lot more sense.
I think that really the top two are the only teams that are actual teams that will get him. I don't know if I'm wrong with that, because even when we look at 5, 4, and 3, Boston is a team that says they want to cut salary. Apparently their owners want to make a play they also own Arsenal, I think, or not? Arsenal?
No,
they own
no.
Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Yeah. Apparently they want to make a play on Kylian Mbappe, which is, not the Shohei Ohtani of soccer, but close to it. So, maybe they're going to take a little bit of that share from the Red Sox and put it towards Liverpool. But they do want young, controllable pitching, and that makes me obviously think, oh, Dylan Cease, hey, you got 2 years of young, controllable pitching. He is cheap. Maybe Boston makes a play. I put them fifth just because I'm not really sold on it outside of the reports of them wanting young, interesting pitching. Fourth is the Diamondbacks. I think if any team's a sleeper team, I think it is the Diamondbacks. They do have the prospects. They're 10th in baseball. They do have, obviously, the want to get better than the Dodgers.
And the White Sox know those prospects, too.
There you go.
And
They've got the guy who was just in charge of developing them. They know those prospects. I think your 4 and 3 are very interesting on this list. I think the Diamondbacks makes a lot of sense just because, man, have they been aggressive in trying to, it's weird to say, keep up with the Dodgers, even though they're the ones who just swept the Dodgers out of the playoffs and almost won the World Series. But given what the Dodgers have done this winter, they really deserve a ton of credit for keeping up because they have brought in new and players that they had last year, brought them back. They're trying to get right back to where they were here in October, and I could see them making a move like that. Again, the low cost really opens the door for the kinds of teams that can be in the mix here, and then I'll let you tee up the Northsiders, but I think that's a really interesting one as well.
Just, real quick to add on with the Diamondbacks, this is the kind of move they have to make in order to compete with the Dodgers because they can't compete with them financially. So you have to make smart trades like this in order to be able to do what they've done. So I think Arizona is a really intriguing possibility on that list.
I also think the Diamondbacks are kind of sneaky to re-sign them too, because the Diamondbacks have spent money before. I mean, they were active this offseason. They re-signed Gurriel. They re-signed Eduardo Rodriguez. They also acquired Eugenio Suarez in a trade with the Mariners. But, I mean, they've spent over $200 million on Bumgarner, Greinke before. I mean, if they like pitching, they've shown the ability to go out and re-sign them. So maybe that's also part of the trade is we're going to acquire your guy and re-up him. 3 is the Chicago Cubs. Jared, what the hell have the Cubs been doing this offseason?
A whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've tried, Jared.
Yes, yes, but they have, after they kind of shocked the baseball world by getting Craig Counsell on November 6th, they have done nothing other than just a dusting of minor league signings. Very much feels like there's something big coming, whether it's bringing Cody Bellinger back, or something along those lines, because they have some pretty clear needs, and one of those needs is if the Cubs want to be contenders in 2024, do they have the rotation to do that? I don't think so, because they'd be relying a lot on some younger arms that are very untested. So there are a lot of reasons why the Cubs and the White Sox would line up pretty nicely, because the Cubs also have the kind of prospects that the White Sox would want. They've got a good farm system. They could really make an intriguing offer to the White Sox, and so I could see those two teams lining up nicely. But I don't know that there have been any conversations, between the two.
Oh, sure, but I mean, if we are just speculating about what that could look like, I mean, these two teams are basically not as much with the Cubs because the Cubs were coming off the World Series, but basically in the same spot as they were when the Quintana trade was made. The Cubs might be one big piece away from, in this case, jumping to the clear-cut best team in the NL Central and starting to make some noise on the NL side of the playoff bracket. The White Sox are, here we are again, starting off, even if it's not as long, a rebuilding-like effort. I mean, Cease could be that Quintana piece that gets them a rotation that gets them closer to that. Meanwhile, the Cubs have, in the intervening years since that trade has happened, built that farm system right back up, and they've got some guys right at the top of it that could be those future cornerstones for the White Sox, or at least, like you were talking about unproven young pitchers, the White Sox don't care if they're proven or not. Right. They need young pitchers and guys that maybe could be here for a long time. It's very interesting. I'm not saying that it would have any chance of happening, but it's very interesting because it was so obvious what the benefits to both sides were back in 2017 when that trade was made, and it seems like it would be so obvious what the benefits to both sides would be this time around. It does feel
very similar.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if the White Sox are looking for pitching prospects specifically, there's several names that the Cubs could offer them that would fit that exactly. Your Cade Horton, Ben Brown. We saw a little bit of Jordan Wicks in 2023. So the Cubs could come with an offer that's very pitching heavy.
And we were talking yesterday, I think, about having a person that you drafted and then having that person be away from you and going back and trying to get him. And Jed Hoyer was part of the group that drafted Dylan Cease. Besides his being the top of the rotation pitcher, that's one of your guys. You scouted him when he was a Georgia high school pitcher, and so you know what the person's made of, and you can see what you're trying to kind of get. So you don't need to guess his personality, guess what type of teammate he is, because you've already had him in your building. You know exactly the type of person he is, so it's comfortable. And if they can get some of those pitchers, man, I'm in. And I've seen only things about Owen Cassey. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
They got him from the Padres in the Yu Darvish trade. That's one of the lottery picks that is coming up golden. So, yes, I would love to have him, Luke, on the team. But I don't know if the Cubs and the Cub fans want Owen Cassey to go away.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is all of these teams that we've brought up want Dylan Cease, but do not want to trade any players for Dylan Cease. That's
going to be a problem.
Always the fun thing. That's luckily general managers do understand. To acquire players, you do actually have to trade players away. All right, the final two teams, not shockingly, the Baltimore Orioles and Los Angeles Dodgers. Orioles are kind of in the same land as the Cubs, just they won 101 games in 2023. The Cubs didn't. The Orioles really haven't gone out and bolstered a team that just won 101 games. They're not really aggressive on the free agent market. They have the number one prospect system, according to MLB.com. I think Fangraphs has them at second. So they have a consensus top 3 prospect ranking and have I think, for the past 3 years, have been, near the top 5. They have all the motivation in the world because you think that a team that just won 101 games would want to win the World Series. I don't see a reason why the Orioles wouldn't be checking in at every single point for Dylan Cease. It just is, will you pull the trigger? Because they can. They have the ammunition.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm just guessing, I would think, hey, we just spent X years. This has been a long process for the Baltimore Orioles, just like Rick Hahn's process was a long one here on the South Side. I'm guessing maybe they could look at their list of prospects and say, hey, I remember what we had to go through to acquire these guys. We're going to make sure that we have the best of them playing at every position on our team. I mean, why are we going to trade our number 1 prospect when he could be playing for us next year? Why are we going to trade our number 2 prospect when he could be the guy that is the one to get us to that World Series trophy? Now, we all know from following baseball and following prospects, that's not always how it works out. And you do have to give something up in order to get something. So it makes a lot of sense. Everybody in baseball has pointed to how it makes a lot of sense. Listen, the White Sox are trying to retool with young players. The Orioles need a pitcher. It would seem to be quite the perfect marriage. But again, nobody's made a trade for Dylan Cease yet right now, which means that nobody has come to Chris Getz with an offer saying, here you go, here's what you want. Give us Dylan Cease. And he's like, okay, because that has not happened yet. So obviously it's not just the Orioles who are thinking that way right now. And maybe, as we talk all the time about how the White Sox are trying to play this market, right, about how the White Sox are waiting for this to happen and waiting for that to happen before they make a trade, maybe the other side of this equation is waiting for that too. We're going to wait until there's not many folks left who need another starting pitcher, and then maybe the White Sox lower their asking price a little bit because there's nobody left to take him. So it definitely can go both ways. Again, that's entirely speculation. Who knows what they're actually thinking over there in Baltimore? Yeah, it's a pairing that makes sense, but are the White Sox going to get exactly what they want from what is a ridiculously talented list of young players?
And Vinny, I think we're on the same accord where if you trade Dylan Cease, you're going to want young pitchers back in return. And Connor brings up the point. The only thing that stops the Orioles from trading Cease is the Orioles' top guys aren't pitching prospects. I think their top pitching prospect is 10th in their prospect rankings. So they're filled up with hitters and position players, but I'm sure that Chris Getz wants a top arm that is going to come back. And they do have people, and of course, like it's weighted. The Orioles pitchers who are number 10 would be like number 1 or number 2 or 3 in the White Sox system. So, yes, they're not the number ones. They just might be very high in other people's system. And some of those guys are ready to pitch in 2024 for a major league team. So I don't know what the Orioles are doing. Like, just sitting back and just taking their AL East championship and that's it? Because the Yankees ain't going to stop. The Blue Jays are trying to get people better. The Rays are always constantly getting better. And then the Boston Red Sox are the Boston Red Sox. So if you're just going to sit back with all these prospects, they all can't play in the field. So you're going to have to make a move somewhere. And we know the Orioles are not going to go out and spend big money on free agents. So this is their chance to get a pitcher like Dylan Cease and match him with Bradish and match him with, I don't know if they're going to have John Means ready for next year, but, match them together and have a rotation that's good in the AL East.
And if you Orioles aren't brave enough, it just seems like the rich get richer. The number 1 team is the Los Angeles Dodgers, who, if they do acquire Dylan Cease for 2024, their rotation would include Walker Buehler, Dylan Cease, Tyler Glasnow, Yamamoto, right, and then like some guy named Bobby Miller, I think.
Just a regular guy.
Yeah, just some regular.
Just walked in from the street.
I think had like a 250 ERA last year.
And then Ohtani's coming back to the rotation the following year. Then
Walker Buehler leaves and Ohtani comes in. The one thing that I find funny about the number 1 team is we know that Chris Getz liked. I was going to say Nick Nastrini. Pepio. Nick Nastrini's on the White Sox.
He is.
Pepio. They liked Pepio, and they thought that if the Dodgers would make a move for Cease, Pepio would be included. He is now a Tampa Bay Ray. So maybe the Rays look to acquire Dylan Cease with Ryan Pepio. But I think it's not clear enough that there is a team that is going to go out and acquire Dylan Cease. I think he's a White Sox come opening day, March 28th, 2024.
I agree. That's why I think I go back to this trade market maybe really, really heats up come July. Given what's happened this offseason, I think it's he's going to be on the White Sox when the season opens. They are going to bank on he has a hot start, and then one of those teams who's like we've said a couple of times now, whose rotation looks really solid in January is going to have a need. Or if nothing else, they're going to want to add some depth because maybe the need isn't there in July, but they're smart and they know we can't guarantee that all these guys are going to stay healthy in August, September, October. So why not go get Dylan Cease? That's why I think he's a trade deadline move, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. I mean, that's all we can do from now for the next 41 days until pitchers and catchers report, and the next 85 days until opening day happens. And Vinny, you brought up too, having the number one prospect ranking doesn't mean anything. It doesn't promise you a World Series. And I remember ESPN released a piece before the pandemic, January 3rd, 2020. It's from Bradford Doolittle, and best record by team in a season. What team did he have predicted to have the best record in a season from 2020 to 29
in this decade? Okay.
I'm guessing it was the White Sox.
The Chicago White Sox. Thank you, Vinny.
God,
The 2023
context clues, fellas. Come on.
The 2023 Chicago White Sox were projected in 2020, obviously, to have a record of 112 and 50.
Wow.
And then the pandemic.
At some point.
And they didn't.
At some point, or just like average?
In that year?
He was predicting the decade, and it says best record by team in a season. So that he was predicting the best singular season
over this 10-year span.
From the 2023 White Sox, who would have finished 112 and 50. And as we know, they did not do that.
Correct. They haven't yet. Decade's not over.
No, but it says he was predicting it for 2023. So instead of going 112 and 50, they went 61.
Did almost the opposite. Yeah.
Right. Fun. And he had, for the worst record by team in a season, the 2024 Chicago Cubs at 57 and 107, or 55 and 107. So
hey, if they don't go against a
Interesting.
pitcher,
I was
they
gonna
might
say,
get it.
yeah, maybe.
The current roster might.
If they don't acquire Bellinger or a pitcher, they might go 55 and 107 or whatever that was. All right, that's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. We got to thank our live audience, Mr. Duber, for watching. We got to thank our producer, Sarah, for helping out. We got to thank Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. We got to thank Jared Wyllys for joining us, and he was on the CHGO Cubs show earlier today. You can follow him at J Wyllys on Twitter, Y's instead of I's, and that's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. And diehards, make sure you get in your mailbag questions for tomorrow. We have 2 that were for today, but we'll just save them for tomorrow. And then Jared even snuck one in at 3:28, right before the buzzer. So we'll get that in, and we'll talk a little bit more about Dylan Cease tomorrow at 3:30 here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.